Okay, well, thank you guys for joining us. Welcome to this webinar of Your Military Spouse Journey. This is Military Spouse Advocacy Network. I'm Whitney Armstrong. I'm the director for the new Military Spouse Support Program. And we are so excited to have you all tonight. We are so excited to have our special guest, Suzie Schwartz. And I'm going to just kind of give you a little bit of background information before we get started into kind of like the interview and the very informal question answer portion of the webinar. So thanks for hopping on tonight. And we'll do a couple of quick little introductions as we go here. So the first person I'd like to introduce, and of course welcome her to say hello to you if she'd like to, is our president and founder of Military Spouse Advocacy Network, our fearless leader, and just the amazing Berenice Castillo. So welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Whitney. You're too nice. I just want to welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Mrs. Schwartz. I'm excited for everybody. It's kind of like one of those things when you're a little kid and you're excited, you can wait. I'm excited for everyone that is here because you're going to get to hear an amazing advocate, a supporter, a mentor, and everything. There's so many things that I can call Mrs. Schwartz, but I know that I'll be falling short. You'll get to hear about her right now. So thank you so much for joining us, and let's keep going. Thank you, Whitney.
All right, absolutely. So we're going to move on to just kind of tell you a little bit about the new Military Spouse Support Program and what that is. Of course, this webinar is for all spouses, but if you weren't sure or didn't know, we actually do have a program called New Military Spouse Support Program. And it's comprised right now, this is our program team, and then we have tons of volunteers that help with the program. And so we'll talk a little bit about how that makeup works. But like I said, I'm Whitney, I'm the director, and then I'll let Sarah and Natalie introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Sarah Otto. I am the manager for the new Spouse Support Program and a Navy wife of a sailor who comes back tomorrow after being gone for 1,001 days.
Hi, I'm Natalie Ely, and I'm the new Military Spouse Program Coordinator, and I am currently married to my Marine in Camp Pendleton, California.
Yay. And something I forgot to mention, I'm an Air Force spouse. Whoop, whoop. A couple of us, Mr. Schwartz, are Air Force spouses, and I am in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. So a little bit about the new Military Spouse Support Program. What this is an incredible program that has built from the ground up where we support brand new military spouses from day one all the way through their first permanent change of station, or until the point where they feel pretty much like, okay, I've got some resources, I've got a lot of help, I've really utilized my mentor, I know where to go to the AFRC or to FCS, I know how to kind of get these things, and then they're turned over kind of to fly, so to speak. And so the new Military Spouse Support Program, what we do is we link up new spouses with mentors. These are trained mentors that we have trained through the new Military Spouse Support Program. Right now, we have close to 100 volunteers. We've got tons of people who, we actually have a waiting list of volunteers who want to help out with this. It is insane how many people have wanted to come on and say, hey, I really want to be a mentor. I want to help a new spouse because I wish that I had had that person when I was a new spouse. And so I think that's what's really fueling this and pushing it forward, is because we all were like, man, where was that when I was new? I could have loved to have someone just an email away to say, what do I do about this? Or what do I do about that? And kind of a safe space also that's not out there for the world to see, right? I know a lot of us turn to social media a lot of the times, and then sometimes we fear that pushback, or someone's like, oh, you don't know that answer? Or there's a lot of, unnecessary things sometimes that go on with that. So we've also created a safe space for those new spouses, and that is our New Spouse Support Forum Facebook page. It is an encouraging place. It's a community of spouses, and I don't want to use the term, it's brand new spouses, but it's people from all walks of life. We have people in that group who have been spouses for 20 plus years. And so, and if you saw the webinar last week, Brittany liked to call that well-marinated spouses instead of seasoned. We use seasoned a lot, but she kind of threw another one out there for us. So we have that Facebook page as an additional support system. If you need an answer right away as a new spouse and you don't have a chance to write an email off to your assigned mentor, what you can do is hop on that Facebook page. So if you maybe you're not a new spouse, I suggest that you share the information so that other new spouses find out about our program. But also hop on that new spouse support forum page. You are welcome to join us and share your knowledge. You don't have to be a mentor to put in your 2 cents to this. We do have to say, though, it is a welcoming, encouraging place. And everything that we are about is mentorship, empowerment, and support for those new spouses. So that's what you'll see the second photo is actually the first page of our toolkit. So we have toolkits for new spouses that you'll find online that you can also download and access as a new spouse, just to kind of get you started. And a lot of the times that actually answers some of the questions before you even get to the point of talking to a mentor. So that's just a little bit about the new military spouse support program. And if you're curious about how to join or how to enroll, this is kind of what you would do. So you would visit our website, militaryspouseadvocacynetwork.org. Click on our programs. I suggest you visit all of them, definitely, and read up a little bit more about us. But you'll fill out the new military, you'll click on new military spouse support program, and then you'll see on there a link to fill out a survey. So once we receive that survey, as soon as you hit enter and you're done, we get that, and there are humans behind the scenes, Sarah and Natalie and myself, connecting you physically to your mentor. And so we look at things like, you know, age and location and how long you've been a military spouse and all sorts of different things. And we've created kind of our own little match.com. So it's not an algorithm. It's not a computer doing this for you. We try and match you up with someone that we think would be a good fit for you as a mentor. And so that's kind of what goes on behind the scenes if you're interested in joining and just seeing what it's about. So if you're interested in becoming a mentor, like I said, we do currently have a waiting list, but some of you are watching the recording. This could be years from now that you're watching this or months from now. I highly recommend, if you're interested at all in becoming a mentor, please reach out to us and email info@nospouseadvocacynetwork.org. Just let us know, hey, I'm interested. This is the branch of the military that we are a part of, and I'd really like to help out any way that I can. So we definitely would love to have you. All right, so make sure to ask any questions about that too throughout the webinar if you are interested or have anything you want to know about that. Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our special guest tonight, Suzie Schwartz. And there's a couple things here on the screen that you can see. And I'm actually, to make sure that I do it justice, I'm actually going to read a bio about her. And I know she'll probably blush and say, don't, you know, but I am going to do it. And these are some of the bullet points that you can follow along with me, but I have it here next to me on my phone, so I just want to read this to you. So Suzi Schwartz has long been a champion for military spouses and families, working tirelessly to support them in achieving their goals by promoting selflessness, teamwork, and a special sense of military community. She supports and is active in numerous military philanthropies and assistance programs. She currently serves as the president for military spouse programs for Military Spouse Magazine, which I know many of you have heard of. She provides high-level strategic guidance for Military Spouse Magazine, militaryspouse.com, the Military Spouse of the Year program, and Military Spouse Town Hall. Suzie is a current member of the Fisher House Foundation Board of Trustees and serves as the Board of Advisors of the National Military Family Association. She worked with the Fisher House Foundation to establish the Fisher House in St. Louis, Missouri, and more recently in the establishment of another facility at Dover Air Force Base. These homes, both now in full operation, provide family members with a comfortable and supportive place to stay while supporting a hospitalized family member or during an unanticipated loss of a loved one. She also sits on the Air Force Enlisted Village Board of Directors. This is a retirement community for enlisted members and their spouses from the United States Air Force and other service branches. So not only all of that, Suzie is the spouse of former Air Force Chief of Staff General, retired Nordy Schwartz, and has worked tirelessly to find solutions on issues affecting military families. She continues to support Operation Homefront, the Semper Fi Fund, and the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors with her time and efforts to promote programs that benefit military families. So, wow, impressive. And not only that, this person has a heart of gold. I have met Suzie a couple of different times, revolving around the Military Spouse of the Year Town Hall and awards like that. And someone who is the easiest person to talk to. You guys will see this here on the webinar, and will just, you know, is so open and welcoming and wants to do everything in her power to support people, not just military spouses, but people. And I know that's something that she shared at the first town hall I went to was be kind. Just be kind to one another. And that really struck a chord with me because it was like, man, you know, it's so important. It's so true. And I'm just so excited that we have her with us tonight on the webinar. I really hope you get a lot out of this. Please feel free to ask questions. That's what this is about, is just to kind of interview and see what was her experience like. And those of you that are new spouses, what do you maybe have to look forward to? What are things that maybe were a little bit difficult in that career together with her spouse? So without further ado, I will introduce to you Mrs. Suzi Schwartz.
Hey! That was a long introduction. That was a little crazy. It makes me sound like I do so much. I don't know. I don't think so. Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. So, thanks. You want me to say more?
No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
I can say more if you want me to.
Well, I wanted to know a little bit about, well, first of all, how did you guys meet? How did you meet your husband, and how did that all start?
You're going to ask me that? Okay. So I went out on a date on New Year's Eve, not a blind date, but a new date. Anyway, my girlfriend and I both went on separate dates, and we were both home before midnight, which was a bad sign. But at that party, she met Nort, and she went out with my husband later. Well, he wasn't my husband then. And she called me that night, and she just said, "I found the man for you." So then she finagled and invited him to a wedding, a Southern wedding where he knew no one. So he could meet me dressed up, and he came, and the rest is history. So that's it.
That's pretty awesome.
That is awesome.
So we dated a few months, then he left, and we dated for a year apart from each other. I came to DC. I stayed with him for several weeks over the summer. I didn't think he was interested. I came home, and I told my mom, "I don't think so. It's time to end this." And then he proposed to me over the phone, standing in my parents' living room. And the proposal was, "I have bought a diamond, go pick out a setting." That was the whole proposal. And we have been married 38 years, and he has paid for that lovely romantic proposal every year since.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, even now, because now I watch the Hallmark Channel like a nutball because I can't watch the news. And he's like, "How good was their proposal?" I said, "Honey, believe me, they're all better than yours." So that's how we got started.
And you've been married for how long now?
37. Yeah, 37 years.
See, goes to show you, it doesn't always just rely, in the proposal.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
That's amazing. So how many of those years, how many were you together as a military couple? He was active duty, you were a military spouse. As an active duty spouse, how many years was that?
Boy. 30, like 32, 31, 32. Yeah, I was a military spouse for a long dang time. I'm telling you. Last week I mentored at Capstone, which is a joint course for new 1-stars. And they have a 1-week course for the spouses. And so most of them, you say to them, "You'll probably be a general officer or a flag officer spouse for, could be 2 years, could be 10. And I said, "Oh my God, I think I was one for like 17 or 18 years, which is insane, isn't it?"
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time to be in the fishbowl. But he was a captain when I married him. He made major prior to us even getting married. He hadn't pinned on yet. So I miss the early birds. I miss those lieutenant 02, 03 days. I wish I had gotten to experience them, but I didn't.
Did you find difficulty coming in as a new military spouse, the fact that you were new, but he was already, captain and about to be major? How did that work out? Like, what?
I came in fat, dumb, and happy because I was a brat. So I thought I was prepared. And I really was not. I mean, I'm sorry, but military kids and all, we don't have any kids. So don't, I'm not saying that about current kids, but I'll tell you, as a kid, you're ready-made friends. I mean, you move in, you got to go to school, you got to do scouts, you got, whatever it is that you're doing, sports, you make friends quickly. And as a spouse, that's not true. I mean, especially, what do? You just hang out at the bus stop? I don't know. If you don't have kids, what bus stop do you go to? So I was unprepared to be lonely, I have to tell you, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, and I see Allison wrote in the chat, she says, "I'm a brat, Susie, and spouse has different challenges for sure."
Yes. Yeah, so true. I mean, I really did. I really thought I knew. And I think that maybe started way back when, because I was very unhappy. I cried every day. I cried at our picture window, and then I'd suck it up before he came home because I left my job, I left my car in the beginning, I left my apartment, and I moved to Fort Walton Beach, Florida. So,
Wow.
which wasn't the Fort Walton Beach of today, guys. I'm going to tell you. Yeah.
Little different. A little different.
A little bit. Yeah. Oh, somebody wrote something about Fort Walton. I hope I didn't hurt their feelings right away.
I love Fort Walton, LOL.
I mean, I like it now, but I'll tell you, I got mad one night and I got in my car and I drove to the mall like I was going to be gone, and I was home in 15 minutes. I mean, it was 2 stores and a, you know, whatever, an Orange Julius. Is anybody in here old enough to remember those things?
Yes.
That's about what was there.
Even it took me 6 months, then I was good. Oh, that's too funny. Well, I wanted to ask you, so I guess what advice do you have for kind of new spouses who are afraid to get involved, who are afraid to take that first step, or have been told maybe by their active duty service member not to get involved? Do not go to the spouse club. Do not talk to, my commander spouse. Do not do any of those things. What advice do you have maybe for one of those new spouses who's like brand new, just getting into it?
My advice over the years, and it's been learned the hard way basically, is to go to something and go to it one time. If you never go back, that's all right too, but try it, because you don't know. The very first spouse club that I went to, and many of you have heard this story, but I didn't want to go. That was my mom's job. That was not me. You know, I was a college graduate. I was a school teacher at the time. Why am I going to a spouse club? I mean, I literally just did not want to go. And a friend of mine picked me up, and her name is Honey Jennings, and she still lives in Fort Walton Beach. And I talk to her quite often. She is my friend today, and that's 37 years later. I know her address by heart, and it's probably the only phone number I still know. So you just never know where your friends are going to come from. And then the other thing is, it will not hurt, nor help, nor aid, nor whatever the spouse's career. It's about you. And those organizations were made a long, long time ago to support you. We've added all this stuff, you got to do the thrift shop, you got to do that, blah, blah, blah. None of that do you have to do. That organization was there to support you. That's what it was created for. It may have morphed into anything, and I hope it does. It can morph into anything it wants to, but it is about helping and supporting you. That's what it's for. And if you think that the military services as a whole don't care about you, you are so wrong. It's not true.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I had a question here from a spouse that says, how about new older military spouses among young military spouse girlfriends and trying to mesh in there?
That's not always easy, I have to tell you. When you come in a little bit later, it's sometimes kind of hard. You've got to find your group. Of course, don't wear, your spouse's rank or anything like that. But I think if you let some of that go, you can kind of get in there. The one thing I'll say is you just got to push your way in a little bit. And sometimes I get angry at spouses that have been around a while because, you ever been to an event and they're already sitting at chairs. You walk in, how they push the chairs up against the table. What the hell is that? I mean, just go sit down and talk. Sorry, guys. You just got to talk to somebody. Don't reserve a chair. You don't go to be with the same friends that you're with at the bus stop. Go in there and try to meet somebody new. At bowling one time, I got really mad. My husband was a chief at the time, and they asked me to give a chat. And I sort of called out all the retirees, which I am now. But I said, if you're coming here and you're about just seeing each other, you're doing something wrong. You're here to meet that young spouse. Take a chance. It's harder a little bit if you're a little bit, but everybody's different now. I have to tell you, I mean, the idea, people are coming in, young junior ones, they've got their master's degree, they've got this, they've got that. And, use it as a networking thing, for heaven's sakes. It doesn't have to be tea and crumpets. It can be networking and handing out your business card. I mean, I want to buy things from military spouses, and I hope other military spouses do too. I mean, I order cupcakes, and I order them from a young person, and she's the only person that's not a military spouse. But last week, I got the name of somebody who's a military spouse. Now, they live at Fort Belvoir, but maybe it's worth it to me to support a military spouse at Fort Belvoir to get cupcakes. And I buy a lot. So might be worth it to her, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I had another one that was kind of along the same page that was a question asked about. It was actually, Jessica says, what advice do you have for spouses who want to get involved, but leadership says you should be seen and not heard? So maybe some pushback there where you really want to advocate, you really want to get involved, and they're like, stop that.
Okay. If they're saying seen but not heard, then I don't know what planet they're on. I will say all the time that you need to be respectful. If you go charging in and you're blasting people right and left, you're really going to be toast. But if you can be respectful and then you just keep going, and if you don't get the answer that you want at the first place, then you go to the next place and the next place. And if you have to jump over people, then you jump over people. But you will get to a place where people want to be helpful to you. So if they're telling you not to get involved, I think they're nuts. I think they're crazy, because I mean, the message is out there. And like I said, at Capstone, when these are new young one-star spouses, my message to them is that you guys are fabulous. And I give them all the websites that you go to. I can't keep up with you guys on all of them, but I ask them, do you go here? Do you go there? They don't go to any of the places. If you're not going there, you don't know what it is they're talking about. And I give them example after example after example after example of the people and the young spouses doing great things. And you've got to stay with them and be where they are. If they're into entrepreneurship, support them. Is that helpful or not?
Very helpful. I love that. Absolutely. We have a couple advice too. Casey said that she met new friends during their Basis Key Spouse Retreat. Been there for 6 years, went with no one that she knew, and came out with a full list of friends, connections, memories. So taking that first step out, definitely.
The other thing is that leadership is so afraid, because leadership believes that young spouses don't want to do anything in person. They believe that. And I just keep saying that's not true. But if you make it something that they want to attend, they will attend.
Yep.
You got to make it something that they want. It can't be. I mean, I still do, all my little parties because people want to just come to see the decorations.
Oh, the best parties ever.
Yes. If there's one thing you should know about Susie, it is that.
I love to do my parties. But you've got to make it something that they want. So if they're currently into entrepreneurship, if they're currently into service, if they want to find out how to volunteer at the Warrior Games, if they want to make it meaningful. It really helps. It helps a lot. Even for myself, years ago, when my husband first started to get into leadership positions, I said to them, okay, if you want to come and attend something of mine, you're going to learn something. And so I would make it, okay, protocol this time. Okay, maybe they don't want that, but you don't have to come. The next time they're going to learn all about the JAG Corps. The next time they're going to go on a helicopter ride. The next time they're going to go on one of the fast boats in the Sound. Whatever. Make it so that they learn something and it's a little bit fun at the same time. And I'm telling you, you might be surprised.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Was there anything in particular for you that, as you were getting involved and being a part of some of these clubs and stuff, was there anything that fueled your passion for volunteering, or that really kind of lit that spark, and also advocating for military families? Was there a specific instance or moment or something that you can think of?
No. You guys, I fought this. So you guys are listening to me and you believe that I came out of the egg like this. I fought this tooth and nail. I mean, literally, I was, wow. I fought it a lot. I wanted to work. I wanted to be a professional woman, and I wanted to be able to do both. And that's what I tried to do. And in those days, it was not easy to do both. So you guys don't know, I am the last of what they call the blue ribbon babies. My husband got a squadron command. I won't tell you the year. I tried to fit in. I was 30 years old. I tried to go with the young captains' wives and hang out with them. And they finally said, Miss Susie, we love you, but no. So I went to work, and I know they did. And they're still my friends today, so it's okay. But I was trying to hang out with people with young captains' wives, and they had their little toddlers and their babies, and they didn't understand why I was hanging out with them. So I went to work, and I got in trouble for going to work. And my husband was told that I had to quit my job or he would be relieved of command. See, I look at your faces, and you're just shocked by that. Yeah. And he said no, and he said, I will not ask her to leave her job. She can be the squadron commander's wife and work at the same time. But if you think that's not possible, then you find me another job. Luckily, it was in October, and it was really kind of off the moving cycle, you know what I'm saying? And it went all the way up to a 2-star, and the 2-star said, leave them there, and they're young and they will learn. So that is kind of, I guess, if you want to say one instance, it sparked my passion for military spouses being able to do what they want to do. That's where it really came from that one instance. It really did, and it fueled everything, because I want you to have your job, and I hope at the same time that you find passion in the community, in the military, somehow, some way. Maybe spouses is not your thing. Maybe wounded warriors is your thing. Maybe volunteering at the thrift shop by itself is your thing. But if you live in a community, you're going to be part of the PTA or your church or whatever. So in our case, the military is our community.
Mm-hmm.
That's me.
Absolutely.
That's me.
So along that same line then, would you say that was there ever, I mean, it's silly to say was there ever, because I know this is probably something that's happened, but I know in our webinar last week, we talked with Brittany a lot about identity and struggling to find your personal sense and kind of that balance between your spouse's career and your own personal wants and wishes and things like that. So was there ever anything or moments where you really did have to choose between yourself and your spouse's career? Like, hey, I have to quit this job to go here, or you've got to do this, or how did you find balance in all of that?
It comes and goes. When I knew for sure that my life would be different was when he made his first star. And I tell the story that I was in my office at the Hyatt Regency Reston, and I was very proud because I just had my own office finally, and I was on the phone. And in those days, the phones were still connected to the wall of the desk. And while he was talking to me, I got up and kicked the door shut with my foot, and I hung up as quickly as I could and started crying. And I kept it secret and for about a month, and because I knew then that my life was taking a different path. It was right around that 20-year mark. You're thinking it's your turn. You're thinking you're going to be able to do what you want to do. And we had lived 2 years apart voluntarily because I wanted to work. And he went to Germany for 2 years, and I stayed here and worked. And so I was the Hyatt had been good to me. I thought it was my turn, and I realized maybe not. And so I did not speak to him quite a while, which is the wrong, people think that's the wrong response to what should be a joyous occasion. But again, it was the beginning of, it's not my turn yet. And so after that, I realized I had to find a way to still be proud of myself and being able to support him. And I worked until he became a 3-star off and on, not continuously, because Fort Walton is not conducive to working. And so I worked until he became a 3-star. And then I just said, I can't do it to my employer anymore because I was moving so often. So from 1-star and then to 3-star. And at the 3-star mark, you start to realize that you can make an impact. You by yourself. And he always told me I could do anything I wanted as long as it was not for myself. And so I took that to heart. And if you can't make a difference when your husband has 4 stars on his shoulder, then there's something wrong with you. To me, that's me. It's a brief window of your life, and it's a brief opportunity to help as many people as you can.
And using that platform for good, for good for others. And you've done, I mean, just even looking at the bio and some of the things that you've done, there's tons of things. I mean, I personally feel like you've impacted even the way that the Air Force looks at spouses and looks at how the family member, that spouse is not always just at home or with children. They may be working, they may be without children, they may be same sex, they may be all sorts of different things. And so I feel like you had such a strong and powerful way of kind of shifting that the way that the Air Force looks at the family.
Well, kind of because I don't have a filter. So those of you that know me, there's not much filter here. There just isn't. It is what it is. And that's good and bad. You got to go with it. You got to be with who you are. So I'm not good at the computer. I'm not good on all that, but I kind of have a large mouth and an unfiltered one at times. And it has gotten me in trouble. Don't get me wrong, because if you're passionate and you're loud, people think that you're stronger than you are. I mean, I'm very strong, but you rub people the wrong way, it. And I tell spouses today that are going into leadership positions, if you think that you're going to be able to make changes and not make people mad at you, you're insane. You can't do it. If you're going to make changes, people aren't going to like them. They're not. They're just not. And so, you know, when my husband had a squadron, I said, guys, and it was all ladies back then, but I said, we can get together, but if you want me to come, you're going to get together in the evening. That's it. If you don't. And then in those days, we had to do these things. And I said, does anybody have a talent? Does anybody remember you used to have to perform like, oh, you had to have a skit? Or, oh, God, I'm dating myself. Anyway, and I said, does anybody have a talent? And all of them looked, and I said, okay, does anybody have $20? I said, okay, then we're hiring talent. You know, that's it. If you don't want to do it, then just pay someone else to do it. That sounds awful. But don't kick yourself and don't wear yourself out on the stuff that's not your strong suit. That's what I'm trying to say. Go with your strengths and let those other things go by the wayside. I love to entertain. I love that. But if you ask me to manage somebody's books or read a balance sheet, you know, I sit on boards and I just pretend that I can read the balance sheet. I can't read it because I don't want to. It's just not my thing. I should, but I don't. I always tell people I never read an OWC Constitution in my life. And well, now we would just say a spouse club constitution, but I would always just say, yeah, I read it. It looks good. That's what I think. I'm not sitting still to read it.
Well, I know a lot of spouses struggle with that. Like, you know, what is it that they're passionate about? What is it that they're good at?
Right.
Sticking with that. And so I'm going to ask you a hard question. How do you currently define yourself?
You know, actually, I think I have to tell you, I'm probably struggling a little bit more with that than I was maybe on active duty. But I still define myself as a military spouse, really. I do. Gosh, I'm looking at Sue hopping over here to my left. She doesn't want to know. She doesn't want to be on camera. But I'm like, well, how do I redefine myself?
You're a great advocate.
An advocate for military spouses and the military. I would say that. Yeah, I'm still an advocate. I'm all over the place. I'm everywhere.
And you will always be a military spouse.
Yeah, I'll always be a military spouse. And I'm hoping to be less of an advocate in a few years, you know, but people ask you, why do you still do it? Well, for several years after you retire, you still have the contacts, you still have the ability to help people. And so that is why not use that until it's gone? And I don't mean to sound like, I don't know, I don't mean to sound like I'm using people, but you've done all this stuff for years and years and years, and you have the contacts, you know how to make things happen, and then you can make stuff happen. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. And in our side, we will say, don't go anywhere because we need people like you. We continue to learn, we continue to be mentored, we continue to get inspired on all the time. And sometimes when we hear those people that we look up to, oh, I think it's time, we're like, no, it's like our security blanket, you cannot go anywhere. So,
and you guys inspire me every day, really, because, you know, when I go to MSOI and leading up to MSOI, there's always a little drama going on, and every single time. And so I start to get discouraged until MSOI week. And then I get re-inspired again, and I love it. And then this year, as soon as MSOI was over, then I flew to Colorado for the Wounded Warrior Games, and that inspires me again. And then I had July off, and then in August I did Capstone, which is the new 1-stars, and they inspire me as well. So, you know, I still have my foot in the game, and I can advocate for you guys all the time, and I do, really, I do, all the time. It is amazing. So,
and as long as you have a sparkle, you got to keep going.
Yeah, that's right. A good sparkle. Yeah. Literally, I say
be selfish.
You know, for the young people out there, I say, just sparkle up right now. Go to Sephora and buy all the sparkle that they have. Because at a certain age, you can't buy it anymore. You just got to wear it in your house or put it on your Christmas trees, but you can't wear it anymore.
That's right.
Sparkle up. Yeah. Yeah, that's my new model. Sparkle up. Yeah.
Sparkle up.
I do
hashtag that. Yeah.
Shirts with sparkle up on them.
There you go. Yeah. Next year's MSOI. It's happening. It's done.
Whitney and I will show up with those shirts on.
Well, something I remember that really stuck with me from the first time meeting you is we were just casually sitting and talking, and you said something along the lines of, you know what, you don't have to invent this or be the head of that or create, you know, it's so crazy because I think we're in this community where you hear about the next greatest thing, right? This person who invented a nonprofit, this person who's fed all the homeless, and this person who saved the world. And we always, unfortunately, tend to compare ourselves to one another, right? Because we're kind of struggling with that lack of identity. And so I think that's what happens is we go, oh, well, why can't I do that? Or I don't have the time. And we try and really, really put those things together to be that person instead of embracing ourselves and who we are. And so I remember you saying, I wish that it wasn't always just this, right? Not, I wish that we could also just celebrate every single person who's doing anything, any volunteer work anywhere, because it doesn't have to be the celebration of the people who, are doing all of these things, because everyone's making an impact somehow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you guys amaze me because, the fact that you can move across the country with 3 kids in the car and a dog and a cat and whatever, I just can't do that. So, why can't we just, in fact, you guys are going to laugh. Right now, I'm a judge for the Newman's Own Award. And that is, I do that judging with my Fisher House hat on. So we judge 66 organizations or programs on what they're doing for military. And I keep saying, don't reinvent the wheel. So I'm reading these 66 things. I wish I could, the notebook is in my car. It's about this thick. It's unbelievable. It's just huge. Anyway, but don't reinvent the wheel. Like there's about 10 with dogs, and I just, nope, not new. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Great stuff is happening out there. And let's just celebrate. I keep saying, let's celebrate the military and the military family. So in this judging, I rated this one. I won't tell you which one because I might get in trouble because we haven't finished the judging yet. But it was so cute and so tiny. And it was just about military spouses. It wasn't about wounded or PTS or any of those things. Not that that is not worthy, but you guys are out there every day, all day, doing great things or not doing great things, doesn't matter. You're out there. And I don't want the world to forget about you.
And something that you have shared with us a few times too is, which is very important, and it's one of those things that I always remember, is that when you can make a difference, it doesn't have to be global. Sometimes it can be, you even mentioned one time, even if it's a Burger King at your installation, if they need help, go and help. That's the difference that you're gonna make. It doesn't have to be this giant, you don't have to go this big. Even if it's at your installation at the Burger King, go and help.
That's true. At the Burger King, they wanted the hours open longer. If that's what they want, then see what can you do to make that happen. They wanted a second Catholic Mass at Hurlburt. Now, I don't go to Mass, you guys. So on Sunday, I had to run by in my running outfit and check out the church to see if they needed a second Mass because the chaplain was telling me they didn't. So I went by every Sunday for a month, and sure enough, I'm thinking they needed a second Mass. And so we got a second Mass. That's tiny, that's tiny. But you can make something like that happen. You really can. Brittany with her swing, that's not tiny, but it's not solving world hunger. But she did one swing, and maybe that will now she's got a second or a third one. It's something small. Do that.
Small
and impactful. Small and impactful.
Bring people to vote in November.
Right.
And something that grows, from one little tiny seed, you're going to grow this giant thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, MSAN is a good example of that, actually. Started with an idea and she created it. It became nonprofit. And then here we are helping, at this point, thousands. Our outreach, on social media is thousands of people. We're helping so many people. And so it all started, with Miss Castillo here.
And you know what? It is started with Susie, and this is why. I think she'll remember that. Yep. My husband took his very first command. We were in Maxwell Air Force Base. And I was not a volunteer. I was not involved at all. I was doing my own thing. Then my husband takes command, and they approached me. They said, now you're a Key Spouse mentor. You need to come to class. And I was like, what is that all about? I had no idea what the Key Spouse program was all about. Then I become the mentor, and Mrs. Suzi Schwartz was going to come on base, and she was going to talk to all of us. At the moment, she was the spouse for the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. And she was going to talk to us about the Key Spouse program because if you don't know, Mrs. Suzi Schwartz is the one that brought it to the Air Force. She's been the biggest champion for the Key Spouse program. So I got so excited. I loved the program. And I told my Key Spouses, we need to have a table and we need to do all this crazy. We need to talk to Mrs. Schwartz. And that day, after the time that she spoke to all the spouses, she came to my table and she said, hey, this is wonderful. And I'm so glad you're doing this. Keep on doing it and push it. And I took that very serious. So I started doing all these things with the Key Spouse program, and I was doing more stuff. And from there, it grew until I was limited to the things that I could do for the Key Spouse program. And now MSAN is supporting that. But it was Miss Suzi Schwartz. That's why I guess Miss Suzi Schwartz to me is the big thing.
Oh, you're very sweet. You're very sweet. We had many conversations as this organization was getting underway, did we not?
Yes, many, and we still do. Yes.
And look where you are now, getting interviewed and on a webinar.
There you go.
There are some people who's saying some really awesome things in the chat too. I just wanted to highlight because I know that in the recording it never shows the chat.
Oh, it doesn't? Okay.
Stacy says that a small kind gesture can have a huge impact. Absolutely, Stacy. A small piece of coal to one person is another's diamond. Something said to me a few years ago. That was Allison. Yeah, absolutely. You may think that, oh, I'm not making a difference, but you're doing something that's going to impact even just one person. That's worth it. And it may be everything to that person. So, and then Courtney says, some of those smaller impactful things allow you to see the fruit. I run a coat drive for local homeless vets, and seeing their faces of gratitude is so powerful every single year. That's awesome.
That is awesome. I'll tell you a story. A long time ago, Nort was the wing commander at Hurlburt, and I received a gift certificate for a hair and, makeover kind of thing. And I didn't need it. Well, I always need it. But anyway, I thought somebody else might need it more. And so I stopped at this young enlisted spouse near my house. I knew her husband was gone. And she invited me in, and I gave her this gift certificate to a nice hair salon. And I stood in her living room, and honest to God, it was 95 degrees in there. I said, honey, why is it so warm in here? And she had, I think, 2 or 3 children under the age of 5. And she said, oh, man, we got new air conditioners. I said, so it should be working better. And she said, ma'am, it's been running 24 hours a day for the last 2 weeks. It never stops. It never turns off. I've called civil engineer, and they just say that's how it is. I said, well, that can't be how it is. So I got in my car, drove across the base, got parked in front of the civil engineering squadron, went inside, and ma'am, can I help you? I said, nope, I know where I'm going. And I went right through, past all the cubicles, into the squadron commander's office. His secretary just was staring at me as I walked in. I said, oh, yeah, I'm going right on in. I went right in, and he said, ma'am, would you like a seat? I said, no, but you're going to need one. And I did. And I told him what happened, and from that, and again, I'm sure that person, although that person is still on my Facebook page, the spouse, so they still love me anyway. But what we found were like 20 houses had been issued an air conditioner installed that was too small for the size of their house. But that would never have been highlighted except for I tried to give away a gift certificate. So you never know.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. So one small gesture. I also found one time I was out walking in Anchorage, Nort was a 3-star, and I found this woman, and she was coming back from the shopette with her child. And I said, really, you're walking home from the shopette? And her husband was deployed to Korea. He had left her there with no car. She did all of her shopping at the shopette because that's where she could walk. And yeah, we were like, no, this not right. But anyway, I'm sure her husband wasn't so happy with me, but I don't care.
I love it. See, having kind of the guts a little bit to step out and make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever have a mentor as a military spouse, or someone specific, or a couple people maybe that you looked to, and what was that like? What was that relationship like? How did that come about?
Yes and no. I always followed people that I wanted to be the exact opposite of. Almost every time. Let me think. Yep, every single time. Anyway, but so later in life, I had wonderful mentors. I had Mary Jo Myers, her husband was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. As an Air Force spouse, I had Lynn Pace, her husband went on to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? Anyway, those two people. And then Sheila Casey from the Army. She was my friend later in life, but if you want to talk about somebody who can balance work and being a military spouse, that's your woman right there. Man, oh man. She was unbelievable. She still is, but I mean, she's unbelievable.
What do you think would have been different maybe about your journey had you had maybe a mentor? I know this is going to be a shameless plug, but assigned to you or someone to be there to help you with answers, kind of like our new spouse support program. How do you think that would have changed?
Oh, good shameless plug. I like a shameless plug. I just can't even imagine, you guys, I have to honestly say, because I mean, I came along before there were family support centers, and that is why military spouses back then were supposed to be all of that. You were supposed to be the chaplain, the family support center, the tax accountant, all of that kind of stuff to help the unit. I think that would have been great. Really great. I did have wonderful friends when I was, brand new to the military community. I also went into special operations. And so in that aspect back then, special operations was tiny, tiny, tiny. And we were the underdog, we were like the poor stepchild back then, not today, but back then. But I would have loved it. It would have been great.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear you say that. Well, and that's the feedback we've been getting too, is everyone's like, oh, I wish,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But there was nothing back then. So I can hardly even imagine it, really. But I think that it's great that you guys are doing it because it's spouses to spouse. Because honestly, every service has tried. We continue to try. And if you guys are successful in this, it will be the example of truly spouses speaking to spouses. Mm-hmm. And you can move a little faster. The military just can't move fast, you guys. And I don't know why. I really don't. But they can't.
Yeah. It's been, and slowly but surely we're growing, and already a few hundred spouses are currently being mentored or have been mentored within the last couple months. So it's pretty incredible to see it grow and how quickly it is. And that goes to show you there's somewhere in there's a gap that's not being filled. And so we're hoping to fill that gap and just kind of
but it takes
guide those spouses.
Work, you guys, and I'm always saying Burger King advertises every single day, and we all know what Burger King is. So the idea that you can put something out, one thing here, one thing there, it's just constant. And I think that's something that we forget. Somebody was asking me last week, how come the military is not very good with apps? I said, because the military puts out an app, but then they don't realize that somebody has to keep doing it. So they're very good at producing a product, but they don't realize that somebody has to be there constantly feeding that product and updating that product. And that's where they fail. I mean, the Air Force tried several years ago. I think it's gone, Berenice. Is the Air Force one gone? I think it's gone. I think the Coast Guard still has an app. I think it's the only one of the services that still have an app that's up and running. But it's work. It's work. It's nonstop. And so they just don't understand that.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Well, and of course, as a program, we always want to link those new spouses to those resources not to say like, oh, well, we're going to provide this that already exists, but to link them to those proper places like the AFRC or maybe their key spouse and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty cool too, is to say, you know what, oh, you're going here. Well, let me talk to so-and-so. The network is incredible to be able to just go, spider web it out to say, let me talk to all these people and find out. Well, what's your opinion of the resources that are available now to military families? And what's your favorite one maybe that you like to share with other people?
Oh my gosh. The resources available today, oh my God, they're just unbelievable. Unbelievable, really. I still love, and this came from DOD. That sounds crazy. I just dissed them, and now I'm going to go back. I mean, my favorite one was sitting in the Chamber of Commerce, the Military Spouse Employment Partnership. And to think that the federal government was trying to support military spouses in their efforts to find employment. I mean, I sat in the Chamber of Commerce in 2011 and cried like a baby. And my husband looked at me like, what in the world? What are you doing? And I said, this is all of government, all of the U.S. government was on board to assist military spouses finding employment. I think that is just astonishing. And all of it that's come from that. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I was also downtown at a job fair when a young military spouse turned the corner and saw the organization that sported military lawyers, and she burst out crying. I think it was down at the convention center in DC, like the old convention center. And I'm like, oh my God, what? And so I love some of these organizations, and they're almost all spouses networks that have formed them that are helping other spouses. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good answer? I'm not sure that answered anything.
Yeah, it does. It does. I guess, is there one specific one that you're like, man, I really want to share this with everyone, that it's out there, that it exists?
I can't think of one. I'm so busy doing so many different ones.
Well, that's why it's hard. It's because there's so many, and they all function different ways.
They all function differently, which is good. Yeah.
Definitely.
I think in this case, let's take advantage of all of them.
Right.
Let's inform the spouses what is available to them, and let's take advantage. Because I think that is something that it is a problem that we, with MSIN, that we're trying to help, is making sure the spouses are aware what is available to them, where to go, and how to get it. Because a lot of the times, you know, I feel that sometimes if you have a really good marketing team, like in social media, younger spouses, it's all about social media. And spouses go with what they get to see on social media. And a lot of the times, not because it's on social media doesn't mean it's correct, or doesn't mean it's going to provide what they need, or it's going to be the right fit.
Right.
So we want to help them to see that it's something beyond just those that have a lot of budget for marketing and they're showing how great they are. But sometimes you have little nonprofits that are doing something wonderful too, or even our own resources within the Air Force, within the Marines, within the Navy, the Department of Defense. There's so many that we want to make sure that they are aware of all the options that they have.
Right. And don't be afraid to sort of be able to tell these spouses which ones you have used and which ones are good, and maybe which ones maybe don't stay current, or that kind of stuff. It's you know, you've got to be able to pick and choose. You can't just post everybody's thing. And one thing they learned, I'll tell you, after 9/11, what they learned up at Walter Reed is don't blast them with a fire hose. And so, and in the beginning, some of the wounded warriors and their families, you know, they had the warrior transition units and that kind of thing. And what they realized was we were blasting them with so much information at one time that they couldn't do it. So you've got to, give a little bit at a time. Otherwise, you scare people away. Because there is so much information. How do you know what's right or wrong? I saw somebody about not giving wrong information. Like, don't believe that the Military Times, Air Force, Army, Navy, that's coming from your service. It's a news outlet, but it's there to sell newspapers. And so sometimes I get mad at them if they put what I call a National Enquirer cover on it. I do feel like they've been doing better lately, but I would never let them interview me when Nort was the chief, because I was afraid they would turn it into a National Enquirer story, and I didn't want that. I don't think they would do that to spouses, but you never know. So
we had a really good question come through about kind of a twofold question here. What is one piece of advice that you would give to a brand new military spouse? And then on the other side of that, what is one piece of advice you would give to a seasoned spouse or well-marinated? I'm going to start using that. I'm coining Brittany.
One thing for a new spouse is to try to maintain who you are.
Okay.
Don't lose it from the get-go. But you're going to share this life, and this is not working at Starbucks, and this is not working at the Giant. So if you can find a way to share in those moments, it will be a wonderful memory that you'll create. And for seasoned spouses, be the best you that you can be. And try to remember that it's not about you while still maintaining your, identity. But for seasoned spouses, as you're about to go forward, you're going to be given some opportunities, and maybe seize on those and try to help somebody else. But be very careful that it's not about you. And I mean about getting favors or things like that. I mean, my husband told me a long time ago I could do anything as long as it was not for myself. So again, I could not march into that civil engineering squadron and say that my hot water heater was broken. No. I can march in there and say that somebody else's hot water heater is broken. Otherwise, you lose your credibility, and it doesn't take long to lose it. Nort used to say when he was in the Air Force, that especially as a chief, you're making deposits all the time. because you're going to need to make some withdrawals when something bad happens. And if there's nothing in that account, you don't have anything to withdraw.
That's true.
Drop the mic on that one. That's awesome. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. So what has been your favorite part of retirement with your spouse? And I only ask that because my husband retires in October. So I got to know, inquiring minds.
Inquiring
minds. Well-marinated spouse.
A marinated spouse. A couple different things. I have no obligation to attend any kind of spouse club event at all. That's not kind of like number one. But for me, I don't, no one's looking at how I dress anymore or what I'm wearing anymore. And I hate to say, but that's kind of my favorite thing. I really do. Today I went up to a ceremony at the Pentagon, and I loved it. I could just sort of I don't get to be incognito really, but I like that. And then my calendar is a little bit more my own now, so I love that. I don't know if that was helpful to you or not, but it took me a while though. So if you're enjoying this life, you have to realize that you might miss it too. Yeah, you might miss it, but you can find your ways to still stay connected, just as I am. There's lots of different ways.
Definitely. Well, I also want to open it up even, to more. We've had questions throughout, but are there other questions that people would like to ask and kind of pick her brain and find out some more about her personal journey? And I don't think I ever brought this up, even that journey, the reason we chose that word is something very specific. You want to tell us a little bit about that while we're waiting for some questions to come through even on chat maybe?
Everybody thanked me on Facebook for getting Nort to write the book, and it was not me. It was him. And I am the outgoing one. And I understand why they assumed it was me, but it was him that he wanted to write the book. And he's the one that wanted to include me in it. If you ever heard my husband give a speech, he always said Susie and I, always said we, always, always, always. And it turned out better than I thought, and people are enjoying my parts. It sounds just like me, and I'm everything that my husband is not. So I'm loud, I'm opinionated, I speak before I think, and he does none of those things. That's why we were a good pair. But I have heard from so many people, you guys, the day that it went kind of viral on Facebook, and Rob Wilkins from the Military Times, he posted something about it, and it went crazy. And I stayed up till like 12 o'clock that night just responding to the Facebook posts coming in, and I heard from people from my past, and people have been sending books. It's been good. It's been really fun. I just got an email like over the weekend from somebody that we served with, God, maybe I can't remember when, and how much she liked my parts. So, and then today we were talking to our former officer aide when Nort was chief. We had 4 different officer aides. We believed in changing them up. And he said, "Oh, ma'am, I wish I had read all that stuff before, because now I understand you better." Well, you can't write it when you're still active duty.
Yeah, you can't say memoirs of or memories of.
Still going. Yeah.
And it is a great book. I highly recommend it. And I think that there could be like a just one Suzi Schwartz, just her own, not just the experiences, but what she learned and what she gets to share with all of us, and how we learn from that. So you got to consider that, ma'am. Yes.
I know. In fact, Lindsay Bradford gave me a little like a journal kind of thing, and it's about writing your story, and it's still in the paper, I hate to say. I know.
It will be great to do something like that.
But see, this is what I'd rather do, you guys. I'd rather color. See, I like
the coloring book.
And those are the best things ever.
I like to color. I like to color.
We love you, Miss Susie.
That's super cute. Well, that was Stacy's question. She said, "When will you write your book?" And that was just right before we even mentioned that. That's too funny. Someone else actually asked, what was your favorite base? What was your favorite location you were
I know. My favorite base, my favorite assignment was Alaska. And I cannot believe I'm saying that. Do I want to live there? Absolutely not. And I went up there kicking and screaming and carrying on. I literally did. I left Tampa in September and arrived. So I left 85, arrived in Anchorage, maybe like 29, and was not prepared for it and whined a little bit. And then I got a call from a friend in DC who said, "Keep your mouth shut. They're that people in the Pentagon knew you were whining. And so I did. I figured out how to suck it up. And I made great friends. I had a wonderful time, and I go back there all the time. And in fact, for New Year's Eve, we're going to meet some friends of ours, some civilian friends from Alaska. We're going to meet, I think, in Arizona and celebrate New Year's Eve together.
That is something too, for even just for all spouses, but new spouses specifically, you will make friends for life in this journey if you open yourself up to it.
Yes.
So that's the roadblock, I think, sometimes, is we're like, I'm not going to be a spouse. I'm not going to do that world. I've got my job. I've got my friends over here. But I think if you open yourself up to that, you will have somewhere to stay in anywhere in the world later throughout your life, because you'll have those friends.
And the military is so small, so sometimes you end up seeing your friends again. You end up being stationed again after 5, 7, 9 years later. And it's so cool because now you're back together. And it's really cool.
Yeah.
What other questions do we have? Anyone else have any other questions?
Or any of you just wants to unmute and jump in, that's good too. Yeah, you just don't have to type it.
Are there more questions?
Because I see people still on the chat, so yeah.
Right.
Courtney says, how do you encourage spouses to get out and meet others?
Anything, literally. I was joking earlier about the bus stop, and I don't have kids, but when we lived at Scott Air Force Base, Nort was a 4-star there, and I didn't know the people in my neighborhood, so I would time my run in the morning to end up at the bus stop with the young spouses. So I got to meet some of them, and then I got invited to their little coffee thing they had or something. So anyway possible. I was getting my nails done at Scott Air Force Base, and I started talking. If you ever been around me, I talk to anybody. But I talked to people getting their nails done, and they were asking me where I lived, and I never wanted to say. And finally, they kind of figured it out, and they were like, "Oh my God!" And I said, "Well, you wouldn't have talked to me had I told you originally." Anyway, and those 2 people are still my friends today. Yeah. So you never know. They said, "Can we come over for the nickel tour of your house?" And I said, "Sure." And they came over with a card with a nickel. And I think I might still have that card with the nickel taped inside. Yeah.
Well, that's something I think that a lot of people get caught up in this world, is they don't want to talk to someone based on their spouse's rank or based on any of those things. And I think that is just so silly. And I know it's changed over time a little bit more. And spouses clubs are starting to join, and it's becoming a little bit more combined, but that was a thing for a while.
And I have to honestly tell you, I think for the spouses combining, I think it's a good thing. And the resistance, to me, the resistance was never that the officers' spouses didn't want the other to. I never wanted the other side to feel left out or overrun by officer spouses. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's the part that I always feared. And what I hope now is you go to a spouse group and you don't know the difference. That's what I hope.
Mm-hmm.
I really do.
That is great.
All right. Well, any other questions before we get to our actual gift card portion of the event, our little drawing?
Gift card portion. Oh my gosh.
I know, surprise. Let's see. Oh, Haley says she's found herself hiding what her husband does. Some of the reactions she's gotten have been cold, instantly fitting her into a stereotype, but the ones that love me for me, they are my lifeline. Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm. I hope you don't have to hide what he does. If that's the reaction from people, then I don't think you want them as your friends, I really don't. The one thing I like to end on before you go to the gift card is, though, that those friendships need cultivation. They don't just happen. You need to nurture those friends and keep up with those friends. Otherwise, you might not necessarily have them. So just work on it.
Yes.
I remember something else you said at the town hall last year was even just small little acts of appreciation or gift cards or not gift cards, I'm sorry, a note, or I think I remember you mentioning hand towels if you're going to a dinner party or something, and how sweet and simple and nice that is. That just stuck with me that you mentioned hand towels. I've wanted to send you some since then and thought, would she think I was weird if I sent her hand towels?
No, I would not think you were weird. I would not. But like I said today, I mailed that note to Tatiana just because. And isn't it nice to get a note in the mail that's just because? And I think she might need it. So
handwritten notes are a dying art.
Yes, they are.
I love to write handwritten thank you notes because that's something, how many times do we get mail that we actually want to open? So.
Right. My husband stacks my mail over to the side, and he puts the notes on top. I never read the stuff on the bottom, but I read the notes. So still, when I talk to people at commanders conferences or anything like that, I still say all the other stuff comes by computer, but thank you note still comes in the mail.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
That is awesome.
Well, so we do have 2 gift cards tonight that are actually sponsored by Armed Forces Insurance, just as a thank you to select 2 people randomly, just as a little thanks for joining us. And then we'll do that really quick, and then we'll just, one last moment, throw it back to Mrs. Schwartz and see if there's anything else before we wrap up here. So I will just go ahead and I've entered in the names. We actually have quite a few participants, and so good luck to all of you. So our first gift card is actually going to go to Haley Warner.
Yay, Haley!
Yay! So Haley, in just a second, I'll type in my email address, and I'll just have you email me, and then we'll get in touch about getting that gift card to you. So don't enter in your information or anything like that on the chat. I'll get in touch with you through my email. So that is Haley's our first winner. Our second winner is Stacy. Yay! I know, we're so silly. So I'm writing that down. And then, like I said, I will put in my email address so you guys can email me.
I want a clapper for these things, like to be able to, yeah.
I know. A drum roll, sound effect, something. One of these days. All right, so before we wrap up and say goodbye to all of you, I want to say a couple things, and that, first of all, is thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of this with us. I saw a comment that was up, and I have to scroll just a ways because it was kind of towards the beginning, but someone was saying how important this tribe is and important this fellowship is to have with one another and that support. And so I think it's just incredible that we have this and that we're able to come on and talk about these things and have someone like Mrs. Schwartz to look up to as a role model. And actually, I do see Stacy in the corner saying,
both want
just give it away, give it away. Okay, Stacy, I'm going off of you. I will give it away to another participant. So we do have the second one back open, and actually is going to go to Krista Dickens.
Yay, Krista!
All right. Thanks, girl.
And Haley also wants you to give hers away. She's
gosh. Okay, you guys all can't do that.
We'll just stay all night just clicking.
I know. It's for a reason. You got to take it. Okay, so if you're all right, I will do that. So the next one's going to go to Jessica, Medve. I don't want to mispronounce your last name. Jessica.
She said yay. Yay.
Okay.
And Krista asked, do you know a young spouse locally that could use the card?
That's a good question. You know what, Krista? Let's email about that and we'll brainstorm together. That is a good question. So we'll do that. I'll put in my email address here at the end and I'll have you guys email me and we can talk about how we can figure that out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. So I would like to kind of, see if there's any last words, obviously, that Mrs. Schwartz would like to say, but also just, thank you all for joining us tonight. And hopefully you'll join us for future webinars, and hopefully you'll become a part of MSAN, whether that is a supporter or someone who shares the information or even just joins our team as a volunteer, because we would love to have you. And the more of us, the better, because we represent all branches of the military. So thank you for being a part of this with us. But Mrs. Schwartz, I'll let you kind of end this if you'd like to.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. You guys, I guess I'll end with, you all make me proud and happy every single day. And I love for you all to know how much I promise you that your leadership wants you to be happy, successful. Whenever we would pass through the gates of a base, Nort and I would look at each other and we would always say, if only they knew how much we love them and how much we wished them to be happy, successful, fulfilled, all of those things that we could never say to them individually, to all 400,000 plus their families. But you make me proud and happy every single day, and I wish you the best. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
And we are getting, I get all choked up. We're getting messages from people saying that you are an inspiration, and thank you so much for taking a time to speak to us and talk to us from your heart. And it's always so nice to hear people that are so unique and they are really honest, and they talk to us, like you said earlier, the way that it is. So we thank you for that, because it's always good for all of us, new spouses, seasoned spouses, about to retire. It's always good to hear that, because it will bring us back to where we belong and not get lost. So thank you so much for those words, Mrs. Schwartz.
Thanks, Lee. Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, I see lots of thank yous coming in. Thank you guys very much. With that, we will go ahead and conclude the webinar. So feel free to hop off. Mrs. Schwartz, if you don't mind staying on for just 1 second, and we will say goodbye to everyone else. So thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.